The board meeting will begin in 3 minutes. If board members could take their seats, we'll begin momentarily. I know. If board members and members of the public could take a seat, we will begin our meeting. All right. The March 6th State Board meeting will now come to order. Good morning and welcome to the March 6th, 2026 State Board of Education meeting. Board members, please engage your microphones before speaking and turn them off when you are finished speaking. Please note that board members may be using their cell phones and laptop computers to access the agenda and information related to this meeting. Live streaming is available through the State Board of Education website. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Christian Christensen,
Here.
Maggie Douglas,
Here.
Lisa Schoenhoff,
Here.
Liz Renner,
Here.
Kirk Penner, Sherry Jones,
Here.
Elizabeth Tegmeyer,
Here.
Deborah Neary,
Here.
Commissioner Maher,
Here.
7 present, 1 absent.
Quorum is established. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Information regarding the Open Meetings Act is posted as you enter the room from the main entrance doors. The Open Meetings Act is also posted on the State Board of Education's website. NDE staff member Derek Ippenson and guests, please join us at the front of the room for a special presentation.
Good morning. Derek Ippenson. I'm the Director of Accountability, and I am pleased to welcome these special guests for the Month of the Military Child presentation.
The Director of Accountability has introduced us. Accountability is important in every organization. We talk about it on base a lot, so thank you, Derek, for introducing us. I'm Colonel Aaron Gray, and this is my wingman here, Chief Andrew Small. He is the highest enlisted rank we have in the United States Air Force. He is the senior enlisted leader for the 11,000 men and women of Offutt Air Force Base. He's here representing the 40,000 plus dependents, retirees, and other individuals that are associated with Offutt Air Force Base as the senior enlisted leader for the installation. And I'm the wing commander of the 55th Wing. Not only do we have a flying mission, but we're also in charge of the installation, including the schools. As you know, there are 2 elementary schools on Offutt Air Force Base. Our men and women are all over the world executing operations every day. You're familiar with United States Strategic Command, which is at Offutt Air Force Base, which is helmed by a 4-star Admiral Richard Correll. They're in charge of overseeing all of the nuclear, basically the nuclear triad for the United States of America. The 55th Wing, we fly reconnaissance aircraft all over the world. And then we have also on base the 95th Wing, which flies the E-4, which is the plane that looks like Air Force One that's flying around, but it's not Air Force One. And then we also have the 557th Weather Wing, which does all the weather forecasting for the Department of War. As you can imagine, this has been a busy week for us. We've sent a few hundred men and women out the door to support the operations in the Middle East. But this opportunity to come and speak to you today is one that we could not pass up, and so we're very, very grateful, Dr. Maher, for the invitation to come. Thank you so much to the board for your interest in the children and families of Offutt Air Force Base. And with that, I'll begin my prepared remarks. Good morning, Dr. Maher and members of the Nebraska Department of Education Board, educators, and dedicated staff. I'm the commander of the 55th Wing at Offutt Air Force Base. On behalf of the service members, civilians, and families of Team Offutt, thank you for the honor of this invitation. As many of you know, Offutt Air Force Base is in Bellevue, Nebraska's oldest city. Sorry, Lincoln. We have over 45,000 members and their families supporting the wing and all the organizations on base. Since 1924, Offutt has worked with the community to foster a supportive and collaborative environment to ensure success. Our partnership with Nebraska's communities and school districts is one we value immensely. You, educators and teachers, are on the front lines preparing the next generation of our nation's leaders. Among them are the children of our nation's defenders. I'm here today to offer a window into their world and to share their unique challenges and transitions as they face, and to highlight a critical program that serves as a bridge between your schools and our families, the School Liaison Program, which we have our School Liaison Office over here, Miss Tina Lauderman. To understand the need for such a program, I want to touch on what it means to live a military life. For our families, home is often a collection of places, not a single address. If you've ever asked, a military child, where are you from, you get a kind of a long, winding answer. It's a complicated road. Our service members go where the mission requires, whether a deployment, leaving family behind, or a move across the country with their families. Chief is about to take his family to Japan this summer. Imagine a child who, by the time they reach high school, has attended 5 or more different schools. With each move, they face the challenge of adapting to a new curriculum, different graduation requirements, and the emotional toll of leaving friends and trying to find their place in a new student body. This can directly impact their academic performance and social integration, and this can manifest stress and behavioral changes in the classroom. These examples are common. They are characteristics of military family life. Our children learn to be resilient, adaptable, and culturally aware, but that resilience is not a given. And it's not forged in a vacuum. It is built with the support of a strong community, and that is where the over 50 Purple Star schools in Nebraska and the Offutt School Liaison Program come into play. Purple Star school districts offer a supportive and understanding environment for military children, recognizing and addressing the unique challenges of military life. The Purple Star school designation is a symbol of the school's commitment to serving military-connected students and their families, ensuring they receive the support they need to succeed academically, socially, and emotionally. And as you know, the Papillion and Bellevue school districts are Purple Star districts, and we have a tremendous relationship with them, especially with Dr. Jeff Rippey. Do you guys get his tweets, by the way, on weather days? Everyone's looking out for the "it's too slippy for Rippey" tweet. Then you know school has been either delayed or canceled for the day. That's right. The School Liaison Program is the central point of contact for commanders, military families, and school districts on all matters related to pre-K through 12th grade education. Our school liaisons are the advocates and the problem solvers for all educational needs of military-connected students at the local, state, and national levels. When a family arrives at Offutt, the school liaison is one of their first calls. They help the family understand the local school systems, registration process, and academic options. When a child struggles to have their credits from a school in Germany accepted here in Nebraska, the school liaison steps in to advocate on their behalf. When a family is preparing for a move to their next base in Japan, for example, the liaison provides the resources to make that educational transition as smooth as possible. This program is not just for one branch of the service. It proudly serves all active duty DOW civilians, retirees, and members of the Guard and Reserve. Here in our operational footprint, which covers Nebraska and Iowa, our school liaison supports 6,300 military-connected students spread across more than 175 school districts. They are a small team with a massive impact, addressing every conceivable school-age educational question and concern for the thousands of families we serve. Through outreach, advocacy, and vital partnership initiatives, our school liaisons work to generate timely solutions for the unique challenges our students face. Family readiness is mission readiness. When our military families thrive, our service members succeed. When they are deployed, they must be able to focus on the mission, confident that their children are doing well in a supportive and understanding environment. Your commitment to Nebraska's students, and by extension, our military-connected children, is a critical contribution to our nation's defense. And I'll share a personal experience. We moved here from Fairfax County, Virginia, Northern Virginia, where the Fairfax County School District has almost 190,000 students in the one district, if you can imagine that. And it was a terrific place, terrific schools. But then we moved back here. This is our third assignment at Offutt, and our children got into Bellevue Elementary and a Bellevue West High School, and really, I would say their experience here has been one of, I use the word thrive in here. Our children have been thriving here, and so, as you're looking at what experience are children having here versus maybe somewhere else, somewhere like Fairfax County, Virginia, which has this kind of grand reputation, it's as good or it's on par or better than those schools. At least that's been our experience, and so we're grateful for the tremendous educators and care that our children have received here in Bellevue. By working together, by understanding these unique challenges, and by leveraging the expertise of the Military Interstate Children's Compact Commission and School Liaison Program, we ensure that the children of your military neighbors have every opportunity to succeed. Thank you for inviting me here today and for your enduring partnership. I'd be happy to answer any questions, although I understand that someone wrote that for me to say, but I don't think we're actually doing a Q&A. But I'm always available to talk. My wife got her degree in elementary education, and she has a heart for children and for education, and so it takes all kinds of people to make the world go round, and I am very grateful for the tremendous teachers that we have that raise our young ones up right, who teach them correct values, who teach them about what it means to be a citizen, who teaches them how to read. We were just talking with Lisa about that. She enjoys teaching children how to read. These are things that really, at the end of the day, ensure that our country continues to be the wonderful place that it is. And so thank you all so very much for all that you do for our children, especially for our military children. Thank you.
If you gentlemen can just wait there, we're going to read our resolution, and then we'll have some discussion, and maybe you'll get some questions.
We're ready.
Always, the American military, right? Liz, would you please read the resolution?
Yes. Resolution to proclaim April 2026 as Month of the Military Child and April 15th, 2026 as Purple Up for Military Kids Day. Whereas more than 8,000 Nebraskans exhibit profound courage and selflessness in serving America's armed forces. Whereas Nebraska schools serve over 3,000 military-connected students. Whereas military-connected children have been found to change schools up to 9 times between kindergarten and high school and face other unique challenges related to military parental deployment. Whereas the Nebraska Department of Education recognized 57 Purple Star schools which created or strengthened programs and supports for military-connected students. Whereas the Military Interstate Children's Compact Commission, of which Nebraska is a proud member, recognizes April as Month of the Military Child, and whereas the Month of the Military Child provides an opportunity to salute our military-connected children and acknowledge the sacrifices made by military families worldwide, with an emphasis on the experiences and needs of the children of military members serving at home and overseas, now therefore be it resolved, the Nebraska State Board of Education extends its profound gratitude for the veterans, active duty, and reserve members of the armed forces and their families for the sacrifices they make daily. Resolved that the Nebraska State Board of Education recognizes April 2026 as Month of the Military Child. Resolved, the Nebraska State Board of Education recognizes April 15th, 2026 as Purple Up for Military Kids Day and encourages students, educators, and the public to wear purple in support of military-connected children. And resolved, the State Board of Education directs the Nebraska Department of Education to continue building coalitions to raise awareness for, support, and advocate for military-connected children and their unique needs. Signed on the behalf of the Nebraska State Board of Education this 6th day of March 2026.
Thank you, Liz. Kristen, do you have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Yes, I move to proclaim April 2026 as the Month of the Military Child and April 15th, 2026 as Purple Up for Military Kids Day, and to adopt the resolution.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to proclaim April 2026 as the Month of the Military Child and April 15th, 2026 as Purple Up for Military Kids Day, and to adopt the resolution. Is there any discussion on the motion or questions for our guests?
We've got some purple over here on the left.
Our staff is very good about doing that. They are. I guess, we just want to thank you. We know that your base has recently suffered a loss, and so we want to thank each one of you, extend our gratitude for the sacrifices that everybody within your base is willing to make for us. So it's just with hearts of gratitude and heavy hearts for the families and friends who have experienced the loss. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
The motion is to proclaim April 2026 as Month of the Military Child and April 15th, 2026 as Purple Up for Military Kids Day, and to adopt the resolution. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Christensen,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Penner. 7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion is adopted. We are now going to pause our meeting, take a brief recess, so for a presentation of the proclamation and some pictures. We will plan to resume at about 9:30. Okay. Well, we didn't need as long of a break as I thought to do that, so we will begin. We still have quorum, so we'll resume the meeting. The next item of business is the Commissioner's Report. Commissioner Maher, please provide your report.
Thank you, President Tegmeyer, and that's a tough act to follow. There are 2 items that have been identified, or excuse me, there are 0 items that have been identified to be removed from the consent agenda. If board members wish to remove items from the consent agenda, please fill out the form at this time. If any items are removed from the consent agenda, those items will be taken up under additional business. Well, good morning and welcome to the March meeting of the State Board of Education. As I walked into the meeting this morning, I thought it was a day that would be like a state track meet day, but actually it's state girls basketball going on in Lincoln right now. There's a lot of activity taking place and a reminder of the many activities that our students are involved in throughout the year. Also, a reminder of the many benefits of active students. And in that regard, I want to follow up on an item I mentioned a few months ago. The President's Physical Fitness Program is an option again for schools in our state and schools around the country. All schools in Nebraska have the option to participate in this program. I asked my team within the department to develop a plan so that schools know that they have this option. And as mentioned, all schools may choose to participate in this program. Our team will be communicating ways to local school districts to let them know how they can participate in the President's Physical Fitness Program. Another item to report on this month is the announcement of a single screener for schools in Nebraska. The screener is necessary for schools to engage in the Nebraska Reading Improvement Act, an act passed in 2018. And the selection and proper use of a screener is crucial if we're to accomplish our statewide goal of having at least 75% of our third graders reading at a proficient level. At one point, very early on, but at one point as a state, we approved over 20 screeners for our schools. And our thought, this old math guy thought, they can't all be created equal. How do we whittle that down? And I worked with Allison Denbesti. I'm positive she's tired of me needling her, saying, how do we get that smaller and more manageable? So we looked at best practices across the nation. Narrowing that number of screeners has been a goal for well over a year. I would tell you that I think it started with Allison Denbesti and myself, but then went to Jamie Cook as she came on and really, I would say, carried across the finish line by Dr. Stavum. All of that over the last probably year and a half or so. How did we get here? We conducted a study with the National Center for Intensive Interventions and the Burroughs Center for Testing at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. The analysis examined technical adequacy, classification accuracy, content coverage, and usability. We believe and advocate for local control at the department. However, our work in looking at best practices and looking at what's the best for the kids in the state of Nebraska led us to believe that greater uniformity will strengthen student identification, will improve clarity for families, and better position the state to meet its literacy goals. The Dibbles 8th edition is the selection of the Nebraska Department of Education to be used as a single statewide screener. So we not only narrowed it down a bit, we narrowed it down as far as we can narrow it. The strengths of the Dibbles 8th edition include its short administration time, a key for schools and the number of things that occupy time in schools, the ability to administer dyslexia-specific subtests, and I would tell you that I'm really proud of the path that we're on and not being afraid to talk about dyslexia as a department and recognizing that it is an issue that we must address moving forward. That is also a significant part of this screener. And in addition to that, there's built-in progress monitoring in the screener. So currently, more than 60 Nebraska students, or about a quarter of Nebraska districts, about a quarter of our districts, are using the Dibbles 8th edition. Schools will need to use the Dibbles 8th edition for the 27-28 school year, giving schools a year plus to make this transition. We knew that we sent this information out last week to school districts. We knew that telling schools in late February, early March to be ready to have a transition to go in August, it just didn't seem wise. So we said, let's give them a year plus for planning purposes, not only in the training of the use of the screener, but also from a budgetary and a contractual component for those districts who are in contracts currently. We truly believe this is a step in the right direction to help Nebraska become not only better, but a national leader in achieving early literacy proficiency. I think this may be one of the biggest steps we've taken as a department in my time here to really say we are indeed serious about improving literacy rates across the state. Finally, as mentioned last month, Dr. Deb Friesen is leaving the Nebraska Department of Education on April 17th. Between February and today, I've had no luck in talking her out of that. She seems certain that she is leaving. April 17th is not long from now. We wish Dr. Friesen the best on her next adventures. We'll miss her and her considerable abilities and contributions to the Department of Education over the last 11 years, not only including her time as a deputy commissioner, but her time as the deputy commissioner who was acting as the commissioner at a crucial time, in my opinion, for the Department of Education. So, Dr. Friesen, we will miss you. To fill the void that she will leave, I'll be moving Dr. Ryan Four into the deputy commissioner role vacated by Dr. Friesen. I'm asking you to vote on that later in this agenda in the consent agenda item, as a consent agenda item. The deputy commissioner role will carry out most of the same duties that it currently has with Dr. Friesen at the helm, largely responsible for the operations side of the Nebraska Department of Education house. Dr. Four, though, will remain. The one question I've heard from almost every board member was, well, who will be the parliamentarian? Dr. Four will remain as the parliamentarian. I thought he could sit here during board meetings as easily as he could sit over there. So there are some nuances and some context that we still have to figure out in terms of a transition. But in terms of the parliamentary procedure piece, we shouldn't skip a beat. We look forward to Dr. Four assuming that role, and we'll begin for the search for his replacement very soon. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Maher. NDE staff member David Jesperson, please make your way to the front of the room for an update on the Teacher of the Year program.
Good morning, David Jesperson, Office Administrator of the Office of Public Information and Communications, but sitting in front of you today as the coordinator of the Teacher of the Year program here in Nebraska. Believe it or not, we're a quarter of the way through the year, but that means it's time for us to look ahead to selecting the 2027 Nebraska Teacher of the Year. And I wanted to give everyone a brief history and background on the Teacher of the Year program for folks who may need a refresher or don't know much about this program. So it's described, the CCSSO runs the National Teacher of the Year program. It's known as the most prestigious teacher recognition program in the country. Each year, CCSSO provides state teachers of the year with a year-long, one-of-a-kind professional learning and development experience designed to increase each educator's leadership skills while celebrating their talents and commitment as extraordinary teachers. One teacher is selected to be the National Teacher of the Year. That teacher brings the national public attention to the importance of excellence in teaching. There are 56 representatives of the Teachers of the Year, and you're like, wait a minute, there's only 50 states. There are territories that are represented, and with our military friends that were here today, the Department of Defense also has a teacher. That teacher was from serving in Okinawa this year, who was chosen as their Teacher of the Year. So that program is very prestigious and up and running. We take part in that. And of course, you have all met Sarah Harden. Sarah is the 2026 Teacher of the Year. She's a science teacher in Mullen High School, and she has been extremely busy already. She has visited several different classrooms already, several different schools. She's visited a couple of teacher colleges already, and she was a keynote speaker at the Ed Rising Conference. We also just got back from our Teacher of the Year orientation, where she took part in the Teacher of the Year orientation process, which is a really neat event out in California, where the teachers get to visit Google. They have assistants developing a potential TED Ed talk. And they also get to learn what it is to be a Teacher of the Year and raise their voices. I always find it's really interesting every year when we do this because all of the Teachers of the Year, one of the biggest things that they always talk about at this orientation is the imposter syndrome. Every single teacher that is there questions why they're there and should they be there, and isn't there someone better to represent our state and represent our country. And by the end of that orientation, at least most of their fears have been relieved, and they're taught how to embrace who they are, what they represent, and how they're a great representation of teachers here in Nebraska. So it's a really, really great event. We have highlights for the Teacher of the Year every year. They do visit Google. They'll be visiting NASA's Space Camp in the spring. Next fall, they'll be heading to Washington, D.C. For a visit where they meet all sorts of dignitaries in D.C. And then they actually wrap their annual year at the end of January with the college football championship game, where they get to take part in that. New this year, our facility staff did an amazing job. If you're up in the commissioner's area, we do have a new Teacher of the Year display adorning the wall. There's a shot of it with my camera there. But we have the last 10 previous Teachers of the Year that we're celebrating upstairs, and we'll continue doing this tradition and rotate the teachers out as we go. So what's next? Next up is our search for the 2027 Teacher of the Year. Nominations are now currently open. We have those nominations on our main website, education.ne.gov. This is a screenshot of that website, but that's exactly how it looks if you were to go there right now. It's the third item on the page. We also have a Teacher of the Year page that links to with more information on who the Teacher of the Year is, what kind of qualifications they would need to apply. But the nomination process is about as easy as it possibly could be. We have a link there on our website. There's about 5 questions. It asks you who you are nominating. It asks you who you are. And it has a section for you to detail why you're nominating that Teacher of the Year. In Nebraska, our nominations are an open nomination process. What that means is that we allow anyone to nominate their favorite teacher and who they believe should be Teacher of the Year. That means students can nominate their teachers, teachers can nominate colleagues, principals and superintendents can nominate their teachers. All of you could nominate a teacher in your district as well. Anybody can nominate a teacher. From the nomination process, what we do is we invite the teacher to then apply for the Teacher of the Year program. It's a rather extensive application process that they will look at and be able to determine whether or not they want to move forward for contention of the Nebraska Teacher of the Year So one of the things that I would ask of all of you is to help spread the word. We did really nice last year. We had more than 100 nominations from across the state. And when I say across the state, I really mean it. Obviously, our teacher is from Mullen, Nebraska. But we had nominations from Scotts Bluff. We had nominations from Nebraska City and Falls City. We had we had Sioux City, we had McCook. So it really was, every corner of the state was covered last year with nominations. We had very strong candidates apply last year as well. So we're hoping to continue that tradition. And any help that you can provide spreading the word that now is the time to nominate those teachers, we'll start that process. And I'd be open to any questions if you have any on the Teacher of the Year program.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Traditionally, we don't have a president's report. I am just going to pause for a moment. I do want to give my personal thanks to Dr. Friesen for her leadership in the department. She was the acting commissioner when Sherry and I took our seats. Deb was reelected, Kirk was reelected at that time in 2023. And just want to publicly express my appreciation for her steady, wise advice over the years. And you will be missed, but we'll also be happy for you that Monday morning when you can have a long cup of coffee. So thank you. If anybody else wants to, I don't feel like you have to, but I also don't want to always just be the only one. So thank you. Deb?
Sure, I don't have anything prepared, but I just smile at the thought that I have a microphone to speak about you, Dr. Friesen. We've had fun together, and I adore you. And from the first time I met her, years before I became on the State Board of Education, I met her at a nail salon, and she was giving me a parental advice then. So it's been fun to work with her over the years, and she has been an amazing leader for the Department of Education, and it's truly been noticed and appreciated. And now that you're not an employee anymore, I look forward to beating you in, what is it? Pickleball. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you for your service, Dr. Friesen.
All right. We'll. Okay, we will now move to our public comment period. This period may be available to any person who wishes to address the board on any matter that is on the agenda or within the board's authority to act. Up to 90 minutes will be allowed for the public comment period. A majority of members present and voting may take action to extend the total amount of time allowed for the public comment period. A majority of members present and voting may also take action to allow or terminate public comment at any time during a meeting. If you are not signed in and wish to speak, please sign in at this time. Those wishing to speak must be signed in at the table outside of the meeting room. Each individual speaking to the board will be required to complete a sign-in card for identification of oneself. Individuals are required to include on the sign-in card their name, address, name of any organization represented, and agenda item or topic that is within the board's authority to act. Individuals may be prohibited to speak in public comment if the sign-in card does not include the required information. Persons speaking to the board during their public comment should state their name, city, and state at the beginning of their allotted time, and may submit printed materials for the board, but may not use any other form of media. Anyone refusing to be identified will be prohibited from speaking. Each person may address the board for up to 5 minutes. A majority of members present and voting may take action to reduce or extend the amount of individual time allotted to all speakers. If at any time persons appearing before the board exceed the time limitations set forth in the policy or on the agenda, or become abusive or threatening in language or behavior, it shall be the responsibility of the president to refuse permission to continue to address the board. We have 2 public comment cards submitted. Vice Chair Liz Renner will announce the names of the speakers.
Good morning. Our first speaker is James McGowan, so I invite you to come forward and approach the mic.
I'm James McGowan. I represent ESU 16. I reside 1353 SL 56D, Brady, Nebraska. First of all, I would like to thank the Board of Education for all the work that they do. I know being on a public board is not an easy task. And then I'd also like to personally thank Elizabeth Techmeyer for all the conversations that she's had with me leading up to me being here today, and also Maggie Douglas for the same thing. I appreciate your time and commitment in responding in a timely manner. I'd also like to thank Dr. Mahar for his leadership in guiding education across the state of Nebraska. It's been a breath of fresh air. And then also, probably more importantly, I'd like to thank Amber Hartsock for her abilities in writing the school-based mental health grant. And I don't know if you guys do an Employee of the Month, but she gets my nod for Employee of the Month. She was fantastic in making me aware of this grant, and I want to thank her. ESU 16 represents 16 school districts and then 4 private school districts. Ogallala, North Platte, we have offices there, and we cover 2 time zones, 9 counties, 12,000 square miles, and we also had the Teacher of the Year, 7,200 students. Currently, we have 3 school psychs, and caseloads warrant a 4th. Of the 3, we have 1 that has yet to sign a contract and 1 that is very close to retiring. Funds provided by the school-based mental health grant would allow us to recruit and retain individuals to provide testing services and verify students with learning disabilities. A fully staffed team would allow us to create dyslexia teams, behavior support teams that would assist classroom teachers and support NDE's literacy and attendance goals. A win for students, parents, districts, and the state of Nebraska. In listening to the governor speak, he touts the fact that when he took office, Nebraska ranked 49th in federal grants dollars received, and that was not good enough. He also states we need to quit quitting on kids. The acceptance of item 8.3, school-based mental health grants, assists in changing this narrative. A nay vote gives federal grant dollars back, which more than likely would be divided amongst the other states that were awarded those funds. Our agency competes nationally to recruit and retain school psychs. Our ESU has been designated as high need. Not accepting the funds strengthens other states' financial position in recruiting this valuable resource. There is currently a school psych that resides in our ESU, providing online school psych services to students and districts in South Carolina, Georgia, and Texas. Being able to match that salary would allow us to compete financially. Handing dollars back just sharpens the knife that cuts us off at the knees. Some could see the grant as a short-term solution. And I ask how would it be sustained? The grant addresses the immediate needs while buying time. This board, Brad Dirksen, and others have a proven track record of being creative to solve educator shortages. When we work together, long-term solutions can be found. This grant allows us to meet current needs and buys time for sustainable solutions. Voting yes on this illustrates your actions in not quitting on the Department of Education, ESUs, parents, and most importantly, kids of the state of Nebraska. How this would look in our agency, let's say hypothetically, the teacher shortage has been addressed, and maybe we have a teacher that has gone through that program currently looking for a position at an elementary school in our ESU, and that individual doesn't have a job. There isn't something available. Maybe married to a rancher. They're not going to leave. Maybe that ESU has reached out to them and said, hey, would you possibly be willing to continue your education and become a school psych? Without this funding, we can't provide the financial burden to cover their educational cost. With it, we can attempt to solve a need in our area. I see I have 10 seconds left, and driving as far as I did, I don't want to waste any of that time, so I was using some of that time. But please think of us and vote yes on item 8.3.
Okay. Our next public commenter is Linda Vermooten, so I invite you to come up and share your thoughts.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Linda Vermooten. I reside in Bellevue, Nebraska. And as the Colonel said, he apologized for all the noise overhead. I said, no, we're very grateful for it, because every plane we hear, we know we're safe. And we pray, because that affects our community. There's a joke in Bellevue. Once you get on off it, you can't get off it. And so a lot of families come and be a part of our community. But I wanted to address the concerns of mental health. As a clinical psychologist, I'm deeply concerned about our children, particularly in this day and age. They face things that we never had to face when we grew up. The pressures are tremendous. They have all the social media bombarding them. They have all the news. They have all their peers. And where I live, we have all the planes overhead. So that makes us astutely aware of the situation that's going on in our nation. A lot of their parents are deployed. We know that there's escalating rates of depression and suicide. Unfortunately, we lose a lot of our young people to suicide because they are totally overwhelmed by what is happening in their environment. I want to strongly urge us to make sure that when we plan and evaluate and consider who we place in these positions, however, that we're extremely cautious and make sure that we do a good job in ensuring that we are providing safe people in these places of high regard. Understanding when that door closes, nobody knows what we are discussing because of confidentiality. You can ask me till you're blue in the face. I don't remember a word that was said. So I can't even tell you what was said. And so we have to ensure that we have competent people in these roles. We have to ensure that as a school board, as a state board, we are looking to the individual needs of the students. We have to make sure that our educators in the schools are also looking to the individual needs of our students, that our students are not somehow being used as a pawn to increase their opinions upon our students, particularly where I live, not too far from Fremont. We are all well aware of what happened there recently when the students were encouraged to go out on a walkout and the dangers that took place. I want to urge us to make sure that when people are doing these things, that the board is holding them accountable, because now we added an additional layer of stress to those students, because do I go, do I stay, does my dad know what I'm doing? So we need to think about all the multi-levels that may be put on those students also additionally. And the life of one student was endangered in that particular case. OPS did the same thing the next week. So that is another level of concern that our students are not being utilized in this way. And I don't know the position on the board on this. I do agree with local control, but on the other hand, there has to be some level of accountability somewhere. So all of these things need to be considered, a lot of things to consider as you're thinking about the well-being and the level of the children. Please understand, if we place too much pressure on the little ones, what happens? They act out. That is a natural reaction to stress. What happens to the adolescents is they become more aggressive. And that does not help their learning ability within the classroom. So, as many mental health services as we are able to provide is good, but a word of caution that we are careful, because where I live, I'm also very close to La Vista schools. And most recently, we've had a very tragic situation there with a psychologist that was placed and allowed access to 4 schools where I live, who recently was convicted, which is public knowledge, for sexual impropriety with a minor. Prior to that was listed on the Bradley list, which was a public document available to all of our officials, including Dr. Ripley, who serves as a superintendent. My concern in the reporting process is if we report that to the board, it takes a long term to investigate that, while such individuals still have access to our students. So please help us protect our students and help them through their stresses. Thank you so much for all you do. Very grateful to each of you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you to our public commenters. There is no written public comment submitted this month. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Per board policy, there is no discussion on the motion to adopt the consent agenda. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Renner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
Neary, Schoenhoff,
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the consent agenda is adopted. The next item of business are the reports of the standing committees. I will report on behalf of the Executive Committee meeting. The Executive Committee reports on its March 5th, 2026 meeting. Members present were Chair Elizabeth Tegmeyer, Vice Chair Liz Renner, Sherry Jones, and Deborah Neary. On a weekly basis, the committee has reviewed and advised the Commissioner on 2026 proposed state legislation, NDE's position, and associated actions. The committee reviewed 2 action items. First, the committee reviewed the board position on LB 1050. Second, the committee reviewed the board position on LB 1224 and received an update from NDE staff. Both items appear on today's agenda with no recommendation from the committee. The committee had 1 discussion item. The committee received information regarding proposed revisions to the Nebraska Council on Teacher Education, NCTE, organizational policies. NDE staff provided information on the proposed revisions. This item will appear on the May meeting agenda as an action item. Finally, the committee reviewed 6 information items. First, the committee received an update on legislative activity. Second, the committee received an update from NDE staff on implementation of the strategic plan. Third, the committee received notification of vacancy on the Special Education Advisory Council. Fourth, the committee had discussion on state-provided cell phones for official board member use. The president has emailed board members with information on how to obtain a state-provided cell phone. Fifth, the committee reviewed the current meeting schedule of the state board due to multiple member conflicts with the December meeting. An updated schedule will be published soon. Finally, the committee reviewed the recommendation of an appointment to the Nebraska Assistive Technology Partnership Advisory Council. This item appeared on the consent agenda for approval. This concludes the Executive Committee report. Elizabeth Tegmeyer, Chair. Are there any questions on the Executive Committee report? Okay. Is there a motion on item 7.1.a?
I move that the State Board of Education oppose LB 1050. That's it.
Second?
It is moved and seconded that the State Board oppose LB 1050. Is there any discussion on the motion? Deborah?
So I brought 2 bills back that, the process we've always had is the executive committee will vote on the message that we send to the state legislature, whether we oppose, support, or neutral, or some variation that includes some wording that we would like to see. And, but there were two bills that are still in play in the state legislature, and I do believe that there is still a chance for us to send a message about these bills. And so I'm asked for a vote from our board members today on these two matters. And I might need Lane because I want to make sure I'm explaining the bills, and I'll just do them both at the same time. We can, is that all right if we can just, or no?
No.
No,
We need-
okay, all right. So for 1050, it's the Nebraska Reading Improvement Act to limit advancement to grade 4. And based on the town hall I attended and all that I have heard from people in my district, there's a lot of parents that feel like this is government overreach, that it's government making decisions that should be up to parents and teachers, that it's so broad, and that it is actually punishing students instead of focusing on the positive interventions and strategies that could be in place to help those students. And so I brought this forward so that we could have a board vote, which is common when we don't have an agreement or we think that something requires further discussion after the executive committee has looked at it.
Any other thoughts or questions? No?
I guess I would.
Okay.
I would share. I support keeping the neutral stance as was the original position of the executive committee. Although I have several concerns, I also believe there are potential positives that could result from passage of this bill. I encourage board members to personally contact their legislator to share their views on this bill.
Kirk?
Just a couple things. So that executive committee, per your request, is a 2-2 executive committee, correct? That's how we came to
2-2 meaning?
2-2 meaning 2 on the right and 2 on the left. Let's just call it what it is. And there, you said it again, there is no vote in executive committees. There are no votes on that. There are no votes in it. You just disagree. So if you're going to have a 2-2 committee, you're on occasion going to have this happen. And I can't think of a time that anybody besides yourself has brought something out that you just didn't agree with. And so the rest of us, hey, it's 2-2, it is what it is. And really what you're doing is grandstanding here. And it doesn't make any sense. We've done this I've been on this board 5 years. And it's just until recently that we started bringing stuff out of committee because the board is 4-4. Never happened when it was 7-1. It never happened when it was 5-3. And now we're having this waste of time bringing something out that you don't disagree with, that the vote is not going to change in the full board. And it's just ridiculous. So that's my opinion.
I truly believe that the majority of people here don't vote based on politics. I know I don't. And so, which is why I call superintendents on a regular basis to try to understand what is best for the school districts. All I'm asking for is, it's an action item. I'm asking everyone to vote. That's the fair way to do it. And that's all I'm asking for.
President, do you mind if I speak? Yes, I spoke on this last month because you brought it last month as well. I have a blog post on it, so anything that you're needing, you can always go in there. I will reiterate that as an educator, I don't think that any of us want to hold students back. And as an educator, I have advocated for holding back a first grade student. And the reason why is because I knew that first grade student, actually it was a kindergarten student, was not prepared for first grade. I didn't want to burn out the teacher, and I knew it was going to be more detrimental for that student to move on when he wasn't ready. We all have, all of our kids have differing brain. Everyone has a different brain, and they advance at different levels. And so while we don't want to hold a kid back, it's actually worse for their mental health to move them on when they're not ready. And if we wait, the longer we wait, the less chances they have of being successful, because teachers aren't prepared to teach kids to read as they get older. Third grade teachers are not as equipped as a kindergarten and first grade teacher. And so this is the accountability piece that is needed to open up those conversations and to get parents involved. There are 23 states that currently have a retention policy in place, and 16 of those 23 states are outperforming Nebraska according to the national assessment. And when I went through looking at different schools that could be placed on priority lists, their graduation rates are not in line with their ACT proficiency rates. We're graduating too many kids that are not proficient on the ACT. So that's something to keep in mind when looking at this.
I have
Oh, yes.
Since we're voting on this today, I'm going to vote to oppose 1050 for whatever it's worth in the big picture, but I do want to share, I just don't think it's the solution that we need to address the issues that we're dealing with in terms of literacy. And I do want to just share that Mississippi, which is touted as an example of, the miracle example of literacy advancement, and they did a third grade retention program. And as of their NAEP results from the 2024 assessment, they show Mississippi ranked 49th in percent of fourth grade students reading at proficient or above, and 50th percent proficient or above in reading for eighth grade students out of 50 states. Nebraska ranks 23rd and 16th respectively. So I know that there are great things happening all around the country, and I don't want to take away from the success of these other states because we have a lot to learn. But I don't think this is the lesson that we should be taking away from them or anyone else. So for that reason, I'm opposed to this bill.
So I have some compilation from a constituent that I won't read the entire letter, but I do want to pull these things out. Nebraska statute and its revised statute 79-2602, 2603, 2604, 2605, 2606, and 2607 already established the early grade framework evidence-based instruction, early identification, intervention, and reporting. If those duties are implemented with fidelity, LB 1050 is not a shift away from prevention. It is a guardrail that ensures the system delivers results when prevention hasn't worked. These same statutes recognize that time matters. Students must be identified early, supported early, and monitored for progress. The most predictable long-term harm is letting students move on unable to read. By fourth grade, every subject becomes harder, gaps widen, and remediation becomes more costly and less effective. LB 1050 sets a clear statewide expectation at the end of third grade because that's the point when students must be ready to read in order to learn. Also, the state statute 79-11-156 defines dyslexia and requires evidence-based, structured responses for students with characteristics of dyslexia without requiring a medical diagnosis. LB 1050 aligns with that framework by reinforcing that when reading outcomes aren't improving, the response must be more consistent, more transparent, and more effective. She closes by saying, LB 1050 is not about punishing schools or families. It's about honoring what Nebraska has already promised in statute, that children will get the instruction and intervention they need early, and that Nebraska will not keep passing them forward when they cannot yet read. Anyone else? Yeah, Maggie?
I have a question about the bill, so I might need Lane for this, if
Okay.
that would be okay.
Okay, go ahead and ask your
Oh,
question.
Okay, first, sorry. I want to know if the bill addresses impacts of how it's enacted, because I imagine, like, we've been talking about OPS scores, that there's not a lot of passing grades necessarily, what that would do to, how that's connected to, like, the teacher shortage. I'm imagining all of a sudden our third grade classrooms would be gigantic, and I'm wondering if any of that is addressed in the bill.
Okay, I think the commissioner can address that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in terms, I would say, Maggie, maybe, I'll try to answer your question, but it might be more of a dialogue that's needed. In terms of the bill addressing specifically impact on potential increase in third grade instructors, the bill does not address that. But that might be an issue.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question. Anybody else want to go before me?
Go ahead and ask.
So generally, I try to follow what the education leaders and the school boards associations across the state think about this. I know we've all campaigned on local control, but so many times we don't vote that way, and this is another one of those examples where we're not supporting the local control piece of this. And I just want to verify, in case I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the established school associations, like the School Board Association and others, are against this. Am I correct about that, Lane or Brian?
I believe the School Board Association is, but honestly, I'm not positive.
I know it won't change anybody's vote, so I'm not going to look it up, but I'm just saying that I believe, because I attended the legislative conference and this was discussed, and so I do believe that to be the case. But I'm not trying to change anyone's vote. I just wanted us to have the discussion and vote on it. So I appreciate the discussion. Thank you.
Okay. I guess my final thought would be, it is the governing body's responsibility to ensure that our systems deliver results. And when we're not seeing the results, and then we at the state level have to do that. So I am a supporter for local control, but we are also that accountability mechanism that was established by the state legislature when they established this Board of Education. Any final comments or questions on LB 1050? Okay. The motion is that the state board oppose LB 1050. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Christensen,
Yes?
Neary,
Yes.
Jones,
No.
Renner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
No.
Tegmeyer,
No.
Penner,
No.
4 yes, 4 no.
The opposition has it, and the motion is lost. Is there a motion on item 7.1.b?
Yes, I move that the State Board of Education support LB 1224 as amended by AM 2228, which prohibits children from transferring to an exempt school during certain child abuse or neglect investigations, and prohibit persons convicted of certain crimes from monitoring or providing instruction at such schools.
Second?
It is moved and seconded that the State Board support LB 1224 as amended by AM 2228. Is there any discussion on the motion? Deborah?
Yeah, I brought this again to a full vote because this was 2-2 in committee. In the original bill, and this is still in play and it's a priority bill, so us changing if we want to is very appropriate at this point. When the executive committee discussed it, it didn't have the amendment on it. And so if I recall from discussions, some of our board members were not in support of the bill, even though it included, like, if a parent gets a misdemeanor that is related to child abuse or neglect. Oftentimes that parent does want to take their kid out of the school and homeschool it so the school people aren't in their business. And we went in neutral on that. But they've taken out the misdemeanor part of this, so this amendment has not been discussed or voted on by the executive committee. Now it's just saying if a parent has been charged with a felony related to child abuse or neglect, then they should not be allowed to take their kids out of a public school and put it in a homeschool just so they can have privacy. I guess this one is speaks to me. I've had 8 foster kids, and I've just seen what happens a lot of times, and I do believe this is about the safety of the child that should be our first priority, especially now that it has taken out the misdemeanor piece and it is if there's a felony involved. So not trying to persuade anyone anywhere, just wanted to have a vote about whether we want to change our board position since the bill itself has changed.
I do want to clarify for non-executive committee members, the executive committee was not, we weren't neutral on this. We had no stance at all. We had requested a neutral stance. I had with concerns, but that was not, we didn't reach consensus on that. And so we currently have no stance that has gone to any senator on this.
First, wanted to say that I've read the amendment and support the amendment, how it limits the scope to the subject of a substantiated report rather than just an investigation, as well as removing the misdemeanor part and limiting that to those that have felony convictions, but also wanted to read part of an email that I got from a constituent on this. Not going to read the whole thing and not going to say who it's from, but just a portion of the email. I want to encourage you to support LB 1224. I am a survivor of severe childhood abuse, and one of the worst things that happened to me was being pulled out of public school when I was 15. Abusive parents like mine use things like homeschooling as a method of control. I know that is not every parent who homeschools, but I cannot tell you in enough words how damaging being isolated from my friends, my extracurriculars, and my escape was. School was my everything, my only way to get away from the abuse, at least for a little bit. My mother kept me home from school after beating me in the face and telling me how much she hated me when I was just 7 years old. I was too bruised and beaten to be seen at school. These are some of the people who need to be held accountable. Please, I am begging of you, vote in support of this bill. And it goes on from there. It's kids like that, it's stories like that that urge me to support this bill.
The motion, the motion that is that the state board support LB 1224 as amended by AM 2228. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Renner,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
No.
Jones,
No.
Christensen,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Penner,
No.
Tegmeyer,
No.
4 yes, 4 no.
The opposition has it, and the motion is lost. Item 7.1.c, board members, are there any questions or discussion on this item? Item 7.2, Chair Kristen Christensen will report on behalf of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting.
The Budget and Finance Committee reports that at its Thursday, March 5th meeting, members present were Kristen Christensen, Maggie Douglas, Kirk Penner, and Lisa Schoenhoff. The committee reviewed one action item for a contract to provide the comprehensive English language proficiency assessment testing. The committee recommends approval of this item. The committee then reviewed one discussion item for the board member travel expenses, noting no concerns. Last, the committee reviewed 9 information items, including a grant for rural health transformation project funds, a contract for the Safe to Help Nebraska hotline, the teacher apprenticeship program funding to be approved in May, new and expanded early childhood grants, a contract for professional learning for leaders grounded in the science of reading, a contract for the Career and Technical Education State Model Programs of Study and Standards Revision Project, a contract for the Nebraska Technology Initiative, an update on the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant expenditures, and an update on the annual comprehensive audit report. This concludes the Budget and Finance Committee report.
Are there any questions on the Budget and Finance Committee report? Are there any questions on the reports in item 7.2.a? Is there a motion on item 7.2.b?
Yes, I move to authorize the Commissioner to contract for a comprehensive English language proficiency assessment.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize the Commissioner to contract for a comprehensive English language proficiency assessment. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Did this come with support from the committee? And if not, why not?
The committee recommends approval of this item.
Thank you.
Any other questions? The motion is to authorize the Commissioner to contract for a comprehensive English language proficiency assessment. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Christensen,
Yes?
Neary,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the Commissioner to contract for a comprehensive English language proficiency assessment is adopted. Chair Lisa Schoenhoff will report on behalf of the Planning and Evaluation Committee meeting.
The Planning and Evaluation Committee reports on their committee meeting on March 5th, 2026. The members present were Lisa Schoenhoff, Sherry Jones, Deborah Neary, and Kristen Christensen. The committee reviewed discussion items with NDE staff, providing summaries and answering questions related to the Rule 11 waiver requests from Hyannis Public Schools, approval of plans of corrections for Rules 10, 14, and 18 school systems, approval of non-public schools for the 26-27 school year, approval of interim program schools for 2026 to 2027 school year, and the priority school designation process. The committee reviewed informational items related to the approval of Roncalli Catholic High School waiver request, the accreditation of public and non-public Rule 10 school systems for 26-27, and the accreditation of Nebraska Educational Service Units for 26-27. NDE staff will bring informational items to a future meeting for discussion and subsequent approval where appropriate. And then this is what I want to draw attention to. The committee also reviewed an informational item related to a revision for the Youth Rehabilitation Treatment Center Special Purpose Agreement. The committee recommends other board members to review the materials and should reach out to Brad Dirksen with questions as the committee plans to bring this item forward for action at the next board meeting. This concludes the planning and evaluation report.
Are there any questions on the Planning and Evaluation Committee report?
Yes, I have one. I actually have two questions for Brad. Can I ask him to come forward?
Are they agenda items that we would?
Yep. It's why this will be an action item next meeting if it was an info item this month, and what particularly in this item he feels is important for us to draw our attention to.
So can the chair answer those questions?
So there's time constraints with the budget for DHHS, and so they're needing to push it through quickly. And some of the concerns is that DHHS is worried about staffing all of the coursework, and so they're planning to cut out things like career education and the arts and physical education. And so in order to be accredited, we're supposed to have those things. However, in dealing with these demographics and with staffing and budget issues, there's just some questions about whether or not it should be accredited or not, the program itself. And so as a committee, we discussed it, and we were trying to just stress the importance of looking through it and getting all the information before we have it as an action item next month, or actually it would be May.
So Lisa, can I just ask you a follow-up question on it's an official procedure that we do, where we do have a 3-month process for agenda items. Is the impetus of speeding this up because of DHHS, or was it a delay within our own procedure?
I believe that what he was saying was it was DHHS was needing it for their budget purposes. Did you want to add to that, Deborah?
So you're saying that they had just kind of come to us, hey, we need this real quick. The commissioner says he can. He's got it.
Thank you.
Maybe I can't. Oh, there, it's green. Yes, I think that Lisa did a nice job of summarizing the situation. If you'll allow me to, I'll address a couple of things and maybe say the same thing Lisa said in a different manner after I directly address the question that you asked, Chair Tegmeyer. The question came to us from DHHS, and largely, I think they were more than willing to follow our 3-month process, except we don't have an April board meeting. And they have I believe, a continuing contract law issue, which makes this, I wouldn't say expedited, but they would have needed that April month. So it's something that if the board can take action in May, it will help the timing of the process. So that was a request of DHHS. And quite frankly, I told Dr. Corsi that I would do my best to get that through. So I would, if we can, I would love to see that decision made by May. The second thing that I would say is in terms of Board Member Schoenhoff saying, really take a look at the information that you have in order to be able to make a decision by May. I would remind a couple of things that Lisa said. One, there's a programming issue that DHHS has in terms of how do we best serve the kids who are in the YRTC program. No doubt about it. That's one issue. I don't know that that's your issue to solve, but it is the DHHS issue to solve. The question that comes before you is, with reduced programming rigor, can they still be an accredited school? That's the question as you look through the information that you have. There is a reduction in programming rigor and in content that Lisa described. So the question isn't, is that the best way to serve kids? The question is, can you have that reduced rigor and be accredited? That's really what this boils down to for May. So, thanks for allowing me to weigh in.
No, I think it was great clarification. So, any other questions?
Just one, real quick. The materials to review, are those just the materials that we got in the original agenda? Okay, thank you.
Deb?
I guess it was a pretty easy decision for me as we were talking yesterday, and I know Dr. Maher has said that if we can, even if it isn't a vote today, maybe give some feedback about the direction that we might be moving. But I mean, if we just look at our strategic plan, first of all, and use that as our guiding principle, it's a pretty simple matter. It's not our, as Dr. Maher said, it's not our job to help the Department of Health and Human Services do their budget cuts. What they are trying to do is on the backs of these youth who are just on the edge and with the right kind of supports can be turned into very productive tax-paying citizens. And so do we want to water down what it means to be accredited? I know that DHHS is under a lot of pressure by the state legislature to have an accredited offering for these students, but they're asking us to water down what that means and to take away from kids who reading and writing might not be one of their strengths, like maybe they learn in other ways. And so to take away some of the more fun things, there's art and physical education, and especially for these kids to take away some career advancement, career technology information, it just concerns me greatly. And so if I was to give Dr. Maher some direction, even though this isn't our vote, it would be that I support that accreditation means something, and I couldn't call that vote to call that accreditation status. Anyway, did I misunderstand something?
Nope, we were
Okay.
that was just our chair report, and so we'll continue this YRTC at our next board meeting when it's on the agenda.
Can we continue the discussion now?
We're not supposed to.
Oh,
just-
we're not?
no.
Okay.
So, nope, that's fine. We'll have a more in-depth discussion on it next month. All right, so we are on agenda item 7.3.A. This is a discussion item to approve the Rule 11 teacher waiver request from Ord Public Schools. Are there any questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, item 7.3.B, discussion item, approval of Hyannis Public Schools waiver request. Any questions or discussion on this? Item 7.3.C is a discussion item. Approval of plans of corrections for rules 10, 14, and 18 school system and interim program schools. Any questions or discussion on this item? Agenda item 7.3.D, approval of non-public schools for the 26-27 school year. Are there any questions or discussion on this item? Item 7.3.E, approval of interim program schools for 2026-2027 school year. Any questions or discussion on this? Item 7.3.F, priority school designation. Board members, are there any questions or discussion on this item? I would like to just reiterate, I spoke with some of the non-planning and evaluation committee members, have not spoken with you, Mr. Penner. If you would like to know more about the priority school designation process that the committee went in depth with yesterday, Dr. Vargas has a file that you can get and take with you. This will be an action item next month, so some board members would like to have that information to read before our next meeting. So you have that option. Maggie and Liz were made aware of it, and so were all of the committee members. Okay. Item 7.4, Chair Maggie Douglas will report on behalf of the Rules and Regulations Committee meeting.
Thank you. The Rules and Regulations Committee reports on March 5th, 2026 meeting of the committee. Members present were Chair Maggie Douglas, Vice Chair Liz Renner, Elizabeth Techmeyer, and Kirk Penner. Committee members reviewed the report on rules. Committee members reviewed revisions to Rule 24, Regulations for Certification Endorsements. The public hearing was held on February 20th, 26th. The committee recommends approval. NDE staff provided information on revisions to Rule 6, Regulations and Standards for Uniform Sharing of Student Data, Records, and Information. NDE staff provided information on revisions to Rule 55, Rules of Practice and Procedure for Due Process Hearings in Special Education Contested Cases. This concludes the Rules and Regulations Committee report.
Are there any questions on the Rules and Regulations Committee report? Is there a motion on item 7.4.B?
I move to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 24.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 24. Is there any discussion on the motion? Deborah?
I might have missed this, but what was the committee recommendation?
Committee recommends approval.
So I think that one of the key revisions to Rule 24 was reinstating the speech and theater endorsement as a standalone endorsement, so teachers can get that as their primary endorsed area, which I was talking to Mr. Dirksen this morning, and it was actually removed from rule in 2014. So just a little history there. It was taken out of rule in 2014, and then the UNK college had removed that theater endorsement. And so we are reinstating that into our rule, and hopefully University of Nebraska at Kearney will choose to reinstate their program. Any other comments yet, Kristen?
Just one really small comment. I noticed earlier this week it was Theater in Our Schools Day, so feel like it's a little fun that in the same week we get to vote to reinstate this into rule.
Yeah. Okay, the motion is to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 24. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Jones,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 24 is adopted. We're now on additional business. Item 8.1 is accept preschool development grant funds and subcontract to fulfill grant requirements. This was a motion on, this was a motion that was made at the February 6th meeting. The motion was postponed to this meeting. So the motion on the floor is to accept preschool development grant funds and authorize the commissioner to subcontract to fulfill grant requirements. Is there any discussion on the motion? Lisa?
I'll just reiterate what I've said the last 2 months on it. I've asked a great deal of questions on this one. So basically, we are paying a company that's based in California to subcontract with, to look at our data here in Nebraska to determine needs in our state. And I have to believe that we have the people in our state capable of doing that, especially in a time when, if you're watching the unicameral and looking at budgets for the state, I believe there's better ways and more efficient ways that we can analyze our data here in Nebraska.
I actually have questions. I don't know if someone from the committee could answer this or if we need a staff to come up. But my question is, so we've been authorizing eKids for several years, I think ever since I've been on the board. And so my question is, what have we been doing with the data that now we need this other program? So I don't know if a fellow board member knows or if we need to call Melody Hobson. Nobody's meeting my eye, so I think it's Melody. I think it's you. I need your help. Yep.
I'm Melody Hobson. I'm the administrator of the Office of Early Childhood Education. And I think your question was...
Do you want me to restate it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So we've been authorizing eKids for more years than just now. It's been a while. So my question is, what have we been doing with the data all this time?
So the data is within every agency or entity that has the data. What has been happening with the eKids right now and up to this time is a lot of planning, discussing with different entities. There's been a lot of discussion with Health and Human Services because some of the data would come from them, and designing how we maintain the safeguards so that the data is never personally identifiable, so that it is protected.
So I'm not sure that I understand. So we've been collecting eKids data.
eKids data, in one sense, there's no such thing as eKids data because it's the data that we already collect for different purposes, either federally or state required data. So the eKids data is not, it would only become eKids data if the full system were implemented and somebody wanted, like, say, a dashboard of something, wanted an overview of some things that would include multiple people's data. The aggregated information would come together, but then it would still reside within each entity's own stuff. So it would still be our data, and we would not. We would never lose the ownership of that data.
Okay, so then, so I have this. You recognize that?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question that I jotted at the top was, can you explain how the grant integrates with these priority use cases that you list? Help me understand the connection between the priority use cases and what the grant work would do.
So the grant work would essentially take us a little bit farther in planning out how could we design the system to be able to get a unique count, or to be able to look meaningfully at the Head Start data. And we have a lot of Head Start programs that are both that are within the school districts or that are partnering with. So it'd be a better look at a better, it would provide a better story of these things. And so it would be, this is still planning to make sure that anything that goes live would be appropriate and protected, and get us to some of these use cases that people have been asking about.
So without this grant, then you're not doing these things?
The Department of Education would not be.
Okay, thank you.
While we have you, could I just ask one clarification question? Looking at the rationale, it puts the estimated costs from DHHS and then what will subcontract out to participate in this cohort. But the actual funding source is the federal government? So
Yes.
this isn't coming out of Nebraska's budget or the Department of Education's budget?
No, this was a grant that the Health and Human Services wrote. They are the lead agency. We were partners with them because we partner with a lot of things. And it made sense for NDE to be doing this part. There's a lot of other stuff with this PDG grant not related to eKids. And because we have that history. The grant has already been given to Health and Human Services. If this is not approved, then NDE will not be doing it or getting the money for it, but HHS will still have to find somebody who can do that.
So I do have another question. Can you just give me maybe like 3 decisions of what will change in the eKids EC Data Lab outputs in the next 12 months? Like what would be 3 things that you would see measurably?
So with the EC Data Labs, I'm not sure that I would be the best person to answer that because I'm not the technical person. There are technical, they are technical assistants that would help us think through our work, what strategies that maybe other states have used for either, data sharing agreements, what should be included, how to make sure that things are safeguarded, looking at if there are certain technology solutions that I am not qualified to answer because I do not know the technology. But what would be the most efficient way to do that and the most effective way to do that using technology, the latest technology that is available?
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
I'm not the technical person, I'm sorry.
Okay. Deborah, do you have a question? No. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Can we discuss it?
Yeah, we're having, I mean, does anybody else have a question for Melody? I know it always feels like a hot seat sitting there. All right, so if nobody, oh.
So my understanding is this is federal funding, our taxpayer dollars, that if we turn this down, we just lose out on these taxpayer dollars that could be helping all of our early childhood educators to make better informed decisions. Am I correct? I mean, at some point in the educational process, is this going to tell us that certain strategies are working, not working, working better in other states to help us understand? Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, NDE would not be involved with those conversations, probably. We would not be getting that information. However, this has already been written into the, or at least we would not be spending any of our funds to do that. The grant has already been awarded to HHS, so HHS would either have to not be able to fulfill the grant, or would have to get some other entity who would do this work with EC Data Labs and another technical roadmap stuff. That is written in there. Does that help?
Can I just add a point of clarification? I want to just back up a step. Melody is fabulous at our Nebraska preschool work and knows that, but I want to just make sure there's clarity regarding your question, Elizabeth, as I understand it. So please correct me if need be. This is a project that takes our Nebraska level data that we do already collect and use and have at that Nebraska level for determining what's happening across that preschool education profile as a state. This project moves Nebraska into a cohort with a multi-state look. I believe it's 23 states that are part of it currently.
I think so, yes.
And the additional company that's listed on that grant works in collaboration with the data that's already collected at an eKids level for Nebraska and coordinates that now with a multi-state project for a multi-state or more national look at the profile of preschool education.
That is not quite accurate.
Okay, well, like I said, I'll need Melody to correct me.
Because the eKids data, the eKids system is primarily for Nebraska.
Right.
Each other systems are for their own states. This cohort is a technical assistance cohort that helps each state look at their specific context and figure out, okay, what is the best process for this? What has happened better? But the data will not go to EC Data Labs. It
Right.
will stay with us.
Correct. But is part of multiple states working to provide data in terms of an aggregate preschool.
And if I could add a bit, some of the things that I think and I don't think they were very well articulated in the use cases, but some of the things that we're looking at are federally, there's a lot of money going into early childhood. It goes through child care subsidy, it comes through Head Start, it comes through early childhood special education. For example, with Health and Human Services, the Child Care and Development Block Grant asks, I would say, about every year, they ask the states to report on like 8 different topics. The Department of Education, because we do the support for the early childhood professional development in the state, and we're the backbone for that, we have to report on a number of different parts to that report. And so my fondest hope is that the eKids, when it is operational, will be able to help me aggregate the numbers of kids that are on subsidy that are also in Step Up to Quality. That will be able to know the numbers of things that the providers that have gotten some technical assistance and support, and specifically around how that fits to benefit the numbers of children that are in the state, because right now we really don't have that capacity. Everybody's got other stuff, but we don't all talk together.
Early childhood is very difficult to capture consistent data because there are so many providers, versions of it, funded streams of different types of care. And so the coherence making of those multi-funds to provide a better overall picture of early childhood is kind of the effort for the whole project.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions? Deborah, you have a question?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I just, this might be, this is obvious to my peers, but just since there's others listening, this project does tie directly into 2 of our strategic goals.
So that tells me that this is a no-brainer from that perspective. And we, because it's federal money, I just know that there's a lot of different requirements in place for who can actually receive these funds and apply for these kinds of, to do this work for us. And so I just understand that the organization selected to do this has already gone through many layers of review and vetting. And so I feel very confident in supporting this. So thank you for all the explanations.
Okay. If there are no other questions for Dr. Stavum or Melody Hobson, we will let them leave. Thank you. The motion is to accept the preschool development grant funds and authorize the commissioner to subcontract to fulfill grant requirements. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Tegmeyer,
No.
Neary,
Yes.
Penner,
No.
Christensen,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Jones,
No.
Schoenhoff, No.
Douglas,
Yes.
4 yes, 4 no.
The opposition has it, and the motion is lost. Is there a motion on item 8.2?
Yes, I move to accept mental health service professional demonstration grant funds and authorize the commissioner to subcontract to fulfill grant requirements.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept mental health service professional demonstration grant funds and authorize the commissioner to subcontract to fulfill grant requirements. Is there any discussion on the motion? Maggie?
Thank you. In my opinion, these grants are more about workforce and special education than about mental health, getting school psychologists into areas where school psychologists are greatly needed. When we were in committee last month, Dr. Rita shared a presentation outlining the jobs of school psychologists and counselor. While there can be some overlap, the duties of a school psychologist cannot be done by a school counselor. A school psychologist can diagnose and is trained in assessments for appropriate diagnosing. A school counselor cannot do either of those. This made me think of our unanimous support of helping our students with dyslexia. If a student doesn't have access to a psychologist to administer and interpret assessments, the student cannot receive needed services. The school psychologist is the key. Also, for homework, I reached out of my district to talk to the ESUs that were listed on the grants. And so I spoke with ESUs 11, 13, and 16 and OPS as their names were listed. Through my conversations, I learned that the ESUs truly need this funding for recruitment and retention. One ESU currently contracts school psychologists out of Colorado, and another ESU may end up doing something similar. They shared their struggles of having jobs listed and unfilled, losing local talent to other states that pay higher, and having current employees close to retirement. Expanding the workforce of school psychologists will take work off of teachers' plates, not create more. The ESUs are really big into grow your own, and that is exactly what this funding does. It supports them in hiring employees to get the training necessary to be a school psychologist. So those are my comments. I have a question about the legalities of school psychology services, and I was wondering if Amy Roan could come up to talk about that.
That sounds like that's the right person,
Awesome.
according to the commissioner.
Thank you.
Good morning, Amy Roan, Administrator and State Director of the Office of Special Education.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my question. I was wondering if you could speak to overlap, differences, similarities of federal and state requirements of what school psychologists need to provide for students?
Specifically, school psychologists in Nebraska provide under Nebraska Regulation Rule 51 and 52, which are the special education regulations, state statute, and then ultimately federal regulation, which is the IDEA, are required to administer evaluations and assessments to determine eligibility for special education. Beyond that, they also serve as key members of what are known as multidisciplinary teams that work to identify the instructional strategies known as specially designed instruction to support the teams in schools in instructing students with disabilities, and then ultimately supporting school teams to identify responses to intervention or RTI that may be prior to special education eligibility determined, or even after if a student isn't determined eligible, or there is no eligibility determination on the table, to help school teams identify the appropriate interventions for students to reach their goals in instruction.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Maggie, you did make a comment that I do want to address. Because you said if we don't have school psychologists that they are important in diagnosing and indicating dyslexia. According to Nebraska state statute, services are triggered by characteristics. It's not a psychologist administered diagnosis. So our state law applies when a student is identified as exhibiting characteristics of dyslexia and requires evidence-based structured literacy intervention. The statute also states a school district shall not require a student who exhibits characteristics of dyslexia to obtain a medical diagnosis to receive intervention. So districts cannot gatekeep those services for dyslexia intervention behind a diagnosis. They don't have to have a medical one. Reading assessment and intervention are, obviously we know, obligated by the districts. We have the one screener now, and the districts do that work. That's not assigned to the psychologists. Dibbles is a great, Dibbles the 8th is wonderful because it does indicate, and you can see outliers when a student has certain understandings and then their phonemic awareness is really, really low. That's an indicator right away of dyslexia, and that is done through the district, not through a school psychologist. And those reading improvement plans are actually created by the educators and the parents. They can be created by the teacher, the principal, or other pertinent school personnel. So I just want to correct that, that students would still be able to receive dyslexia services, whether or not, I'm not discounting the importance of school psychologists, just want to make sure that we have accurate information on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I like learning when I'm wrong. Thank you.
Anyone else on this grant?
I just have a question for everyone. We worked really hard on our strategic plan, and it's front and center in front of all the staff who have really started to change the culture of the organization based on that plan. And it is supposed to be the guiding principles for us. We all voted unanimously to say, this is what I'm going to base my decision on. These goals regarding our strategic plan. And so we have another funding item here that meets 2 of our 4 strategic plan goals fairly clearly. It's recommended by the team of professionals that work within this. There's been no discussion prior to today about ways we can improve or change or do better.
So I do hope that, I mean, I'm starting to question why we have a strategic plan if we are voting things down that are directly aligned with it. And so I think it would be nice to hear from anyone that is planning to vote against it so we can understand how you justify not supporting something that is very clearly part of our strategic plan that you supported. I'm just kind of curious about that.
Any more questions or comments on this? Okay, the motion on the floor is to accept mental health service professional demonstration grant funds and authorize the commissioner to subcontract to fulfill grant requirements. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Schoenhoff,
No.
Neary,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Jones,
No.
Douglas,
Yes.
Penner,
No.
Tegmeyer,
No.
4 yes, 4 no.
The opposition has it, and the motion is lost. Is there a motion on item 8.3?
Yes, I move to accept school-based mental health services grant funds and to authorize the commissioner to subcontract to fulfill grant requirements.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to accept school-based mental health services grant funds and authorize the commissioner to subcontract to fulfill grant requirements. Is there any discussion on the motion? Deborah?
I have a question for Dr. Maher. I'd just like to understand how our school districts across the state will be negatively impacted if we turn this down.
I'm not sure I'm prepared to answer that, Deborah. I think it's a good question. I don't know that I have a good answer for you.
Can you answer how they will be positively impacted? Because I don't expect you to know the detail of every tiny little.
Perhaps, I feel like a board member would like to answer that question.
If I could, through my conversations, it's especially this one, that the unfilled positions and the paying out-of-state talent to fill these jobs. So if they could hire their own, they have workforce, they have local people, and it's better for the ESUs and their students. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I have more, but I want to give other people a chance.
Any other questions or comments?
I will. I'll make a statement. Because this is my response to every mental health grant that will be being brought before me. Having been a school counselor for 14 years, I acknowledge that there are students who have emotional and behavioral needs. And I believe there must be guidelines established to protect our students, provide guidance and support to school staff, and to ensure parental rights. So that's what I'm needing to see.
Kirk?
Yeah, I think for over a year now, at least I have asked anything for mental health, that we get some guardrails, safeguards, make it sustainable, data-driven, parental notification, and measurable. I've asked for all that for over a year. In fact, if you go back 4 years, I've been working to try and get a comprehensive mental health program that we could all agree with in this room coming from NDE, and I have failed. Worked very hard on that. So understanding the need for the school psychologist, the gentleman from Brady, I get it. I get it, but you can't tell me that a school psychologist is only going to do IEPs. We have to have guardrails, and they will be asked about other issues, and we have to have guardrails around that. NDE knew about this and has known of my requirements at least, and it looks like Sherry's as well, for at least a year probably, and they are a prerequisite of me voting yes for any mental health programming. If this vote fails, the blame sits squarely on NDE for not addressing the requests that we've had for over a year. We have tried, and yet they went and got a grant, although they hadn't got their ducks in a row, knowing it would be a tough sell.
Deborah?
I just want to point out, I mean, this is to help the school districts across the state, and there's specifically 10 positions that are focused on rural school districts, which we don't always see that carved out. One, I have heard Mr. Penner speak about guardrails, but I haven't heard specifics, so maybe he can specifically tell us. He mentioned he thinks that these psychologists are going to talk about more than IEPs, and so maybe you would like to help us understand what else you're worried they'll talk about and what specific guardrails, because honestly, I've heard you say you want guardrails, but I've never heard anything specific about what is needed. And this is a lot of money. We know there is a huge mental health issue with our kids in schools that got exacerbated by electronic communications and the pandemic, and it is hard right now. And so to take away this amount of money when this program aligns so closely with our strategic goals that we unanimously voted on, I guess I need to know what are the specific guardrails and why haven't we been discussing them, and why wasn't this discussed in the committee, that you wanted to bring forward this grant, but we wanted to consider these specific changes. I mean, I feel like we're not doing our job. We go into committees and we're going to say we're going to pray about things, or we're going to make some phone calls and do some checking and look on the internet. If any student in school told me they were going to look on the internet as their source for getting information and they're not talking to the experts that are involved, I would have very serious concerns about what kind of response they would be getting if they're just, so anyway, back to my question, what specific guardrails have you been requesting, and what are your fears that these psychologists are going to do besides talk about IEPs? Thank you.
So last year, we
I asked a question of Kurt.
I know, and he's going to answer, and if he wants to answer, he will in a minute. But a year ago, we voted against. There were 4 of us who voted against a mental health grant, and we gave very, very detailed and specific reasons during that meeting a year ago. I think at your request, I'm not finished speaking, and during that time, the staff, Dr. Rita, took very careful notes of our concerns. And when I went into Spark the next month, there was a document in there, and it was called Guiding Principles for School Mental Health Services, and this was on the April 2025 agenda. And the goal of this was to establish a clear framework for delivering mental health training for staff. I read through it. I was impressed. I agreed with it. It was something I thought we were going to go forward with. And then suddenly It died. I don't know where. It was not in any of my committees. It died, and it's no longer on Spark. It's gone. And so I don't know what happened, but I thought that we had the beginnings of a conversation. The four of us who voted against mental health a year ago gave our reasons. I know Kirk has been trying to help people see what he would like to do, what he thinks, what we have proven measurable results in things that have helped improve students' mental health. It's measurable, not just anecdotal. And there has been an earnestness to move things forward by the four of us who were against last year's mental health, but it's not gone beyond the four of us. There's been no consensus. Deb?
So I still am not hearing, and if they were so clearly spelled out, today might be a nice time to refresh us. What are those specific guardrails? The only one I remember that stuck out in my head, because it was clearly something that was not evidence-based, was that you wanted parent permission before any student could ever talk to any professional about something that might be bothering them, which goes against what the education community, but if I'm wrong, if I am stating that wrong, please let me know. That was one of the guardrails that I remember, and I remember thinking, well, that's not an evidence-based practice. But if it was that important, why didn't we keep bringing it up in committee and brainstorming? Now, the only plan I've heard from Mr. Penner, and I do appreciate that he invited all of us to some small group meetings, but what he is professing is a specific vendor that he wants used. And that's not our job to decide who are the vendors. Our job is to say, what is the strategic plan? And how do we support that plan? And then how do we allow local school districts to decide what needs to be in place? Because again, this is like the fourth or fifth time this meeting, we are voting against local school control. We want to set what the parameters are rather than letting our local school districts decide. So I think when we're talking about damaging our school districts by turning down this kind of, I believe the public and your peers deserve to know what the reasons are. I have been told several times, like, there must be shame behind what you believe because you can't come forward and say these things publicly. So it's either you don't understand the issues, you're ashamed of them, or maybe there's some other reason. But transparency and accountability is part of our job, and if we can't do that, then I
actually think that there's probably a state statute that governs what parents are included in the process of their students receiving mental health services. I don't believe that that's just what experts say. And we always hear about experts, but we never get the research on who these experts are. So that's my reason. I want to make sure that we have a framework around it. I've explained it. I'm sorry if you can't remember it. If it's that big of a deal to you, then maybe you should go back and watch the April meeting last month.
Do you remember what the guardrails were?
Point of order.
Okay, we've had a point of order called.
All right, thank you.
What's your point?
Interrupting and already spoke twice.
Okay. Would anybody else like to speak to this?
I would like to.
Lisa?
I wasn't going to speak today because I feel like I've actually just repeated everything I've already said on every item that I've spoke on so far today, but I will repeat because I do think it's important. And I will, as always, have a blog post out after every meeting in just for the sake of transparency. Things like this are the reason why I'm voting no. It says in here, provide professional development to educators to support comprehensive school mental health programming such as screening, referral, consultation. 500 educators to be developed. And as we said a year ago, and I'm reiterating just because it's already been said, that we want to make sure there's clear defined parameters in place, because we have a plethora of people educated in different areas of the state and out of state, and we need to make sure that we're all on the same page, because these are kids, and there is a lot of different research that if we do the wrong things, we could actually be damaging these kids to extreme amounts if we put the wrong practices into place. So when we're voting no on these items, it's not because we care less about kids. It's not because we don't think that mental health is extremely important. It's the opposite. We think it's so important that we need to have policies in place that guard the rights of our kids, not our kids, Nebraskan kids. They're not ours, they're the parents, and the parents also have rights as well. And so yes, very much pro-parental rights, also very pro-mental health for kids, and making sure, so pro-mental health, that I am willing to do whatever it takes to make sure we have the right policies in place to ensure that that happens.
So I'm going to ask, what steps, so anybody that votes against this, what steps are you going to take after this meeting to make sure that discussions continue so that we don't keep turning down funding that our school districts need? Thank you.
Yep, I'll answer the question I've done. We're already working on it, or I am already working on it. And again, it's not the 4 no votes. This rests squarely on NDE. They knew that these guardrails had to be in place, and they went and got the money. Not that hard. This would pass if we had guardrails. If we could all agree on guardrails, this would pass. Not that hard.
Do you want to tell us what you're pursuing? Because other than a specific vendor that you want to work with, I haven't heard anything else.
It's not a specific vendor.
What is it then? Do you think we should be open to listening to
Call the
what
vote.
you're working on?
Can we call the vote? Point of order, call the vote.
Any other comments? Maggie?
One last quick one. With the guardrails, I know, I'm semi-freshly out of school for mental health, so I learned a lot of guardrails, through my education. And just with the oversight of getting my state license and being nationally certified, I have to go through a lot of hoops. There are a lot of guardrails for me to meet with a child. And I have to, if it's somebody I'm seeing in school, I have to get, clear background check with the school. I have to get the principal's permission. The school district has to allow it. It's the building, it's the district, it's the parent, it's also the state. I feel like there are a lot of guards, but I wonder if the awareness of what existing guardrails there are, if that would be helpful too.
President Tegmeyer, something, Maggie, that you said made me think back to a call that I received within the past year, and I think this is pertinent. I received a call from a superintendent who was hiring an individual from the community to come into his schools to do mental health with students. And he saw that what she was practicing was not in line with their school policy. So he discontinued the services from this individual, from this community counselor. So that is a perfect example of the need of guidelines. I think that's a good example of the necessity of having guidelines.
I agree with you that I'm glad that administrator realized that it was wrong, because that is the local level also having control over who's allowed in their buildings.
Okay. The motion is to accept school-based mental health service grant funds and authorize the commissioner to subcontract to fulfill grant requirements. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Douglas,
Yes.
Penner,
No.
Tegmeyer,
No.
Neary,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Jones,
No.
Schoenhoff,
No.
4 yes, 4 no.
The opposition has it, and the motion is lost. The next items on the agenda, items 9.1 to 9.2, are information items and written reports for the board. Item Agenda 10, Good of the Order. This section of the agenda is intended for board members to offer informal observations of the work of the State Board. Board members may make brief announcements about attendance at future events for the purpose of informing other board members. No business or motions or suggested actions of the board may be offered at this point in the agenda, nor should board members engage in substantive discussion about other agenda items or introduce new agenda items. Maggie?
A couple months ago, Lisa and I had talked about going to NCEBVI for a tour. Yeah, I have it pulled up, so I wouldn't get the letters wrong. But I want to maybe talk to you about us opening up to the whole board to maybe be able to go, but it's March 27th at 10 o'clock.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, thank you to those who attended in person and who tuned into the broadcast. The next meetings of the State Board of Education are scheduled for May 7th and 8th in Bellevue, Nebraska. The March 6, 2026 State Board meeting is adjourned.